Hi, it's Angie. Welcome to my kitchen. If you haven't heard, I am actually going over some recipes in this book. I'm going over them at random just to see how doable following a recipe from a recipe book is versus following one from a video. I know a lot of people now go to YouTube to follow a recipe and learn how to do a recipe, but I wanted to see how doable it is to do it um, following a book, just like our parents used to do. All right, so I went through this recipe book and I found some recipes that I have the ingredients for already. So I put them in here. There's 15 recipes in here. So I'm going to pick from these 15 recipes at random, just because I decided not to follow a specific pattern to see how easy it is. I did the first one already. I've done a second one. And now I'm working on the third one. So in total, it's 17 recipes in this book that I'm working on. There are several more recipes. I don't have the ingredients for, and I don't feel like it's going to benefit me to buy the ingredients because I don't use them on a regular basis. So I'm mainly using ingredients that I already have at hand. And let me go ahead and pick the first recipe. So the first recipe, page 42. All right, so I'm gonna turn to page 42. I'm really excited about this. Okay, rosemary and lemon bread. So luckily I do still have some rosemary. Yesterday I actually made a rosemary loaf, which is, I believe, no, it's not one of the consecutive ones. So I'm gonna take this. No, sorry. Yep, 42. That's the one I thought I switched to 44 by mistake. Okay, so it's 42, and I'm not going to read the recipe ahead of time. So we're going to go through it, through the chaos together, and we're going to just see how it is. Normally, I would read through it, but it looks like just based off of the information it gives me here, the prep time is 20 hours. So I'm assuming that this loaf is going to have to sit for a while. So this recipe or this recipe book right here is a no-knead bread. So um, based off of the first two that I made, it seems like it's a lot of sitting and waiting around for the recipe to be complete. Okay, so I'm going to grab a bowl, and it says to use one with a lid. This one has a lid, luckily. So let me just grab the lid while I'm here. That's the lid to my bowl. Okay, and it asks for 3 cups all-purpose flour. So it wants 3 cups all-purpose flour, 1/4 teaspoon of yeast, 1 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of rosemary chopped, 2 teaspoons of lemon zest, and warm water. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab all of these ingredients, and then I'll come back to you guys. Okay, so I have the ingredients here. Um, It says take a large mixing bowl or container with lid, add lemon zest, salt, rosemary, and yeast. Then stir until mixed. Okay, so I have them. I'm going to put the rosemary and lemon zest in there. Um, Now I've added all of the ingredients, it says, and then I'm going to stir until mixed. I forgot to warm up my water. So I need 1.5 cups of water. And I'm just going to stick it in the microwave for 30 seconds because it just says that it needs warm water. It doesn't say the temperature. Just going to mix it up. Mix, mix, mix. I'm not a really big fan of like lemon or citrus in breads. So I'm very interested to see what this is going to taste like if I do taste it. It might be one of these loaves that I'm donate to somebody else or I give to a neighbor. So I'm going to add it, right? It says pour in water, stir until everything is uniformly moist. So I'm adding it in. And you see it creates a little, you can't see it because all the water's down here, but it creates a little soup. So I'm just going to stir it. And it's supposed to create a uniform, sticky dough. Okay, it's coming together. It's almost uniformly sticky. You know, let me just read ahead. Cover the bowl containing dough with plastic or a lid and then let rest for up to 12 to 18 hours. It looks like this. You see, it looks like a thick pancake batter almost. I wonder if you can just take pancake batter and make it into bread then with this consistency. I'm guessing you will still need some yeast. That would be like a science experiment. Take some pancake batter, add a little bit of yeast, and then try to make it into bread. That'd be pretty interesting. Okay, so I'm going to put the top on it. I'm going to put it in this corner away from the rest of my kitchen, and then I'm just going to wait until it rises, and I'll come back. Okay, guys, I'm back with my dough for the rosemary and lemon bread that we were making. It has been sitting on the counter for 12 hours. I believe that's what yep, 12 to 18 hours. Um, it looks like it's doubled in size. It smells very good, actually. And so it says to transfer onto a clean working surface dusted with flour. Now, honestly, this is going to be my second time making a bread using that technique. And yes, it does come out with a clean, nice risen dough. If you want to use the dough I made, the first one I made as an example, here is some leftovers because I definitely went to town eating it. This is all that's left, so it did rise very nicely. The only thing is I don't like how the transfer of it feels. I feel like it's a little messy. And so I don't want to do it that method. So I'm going to take the book and make it a little bit my own with something that I'm more comfortable with. So I've seen at least the way that I make a focaccia. I like use a wet bread. I'm sorry, I use a wet dough also. It's a high moisture, I think that's what they call it, a high moisture dough, high moisture bread. And to make that, like the technique, it's like a four corner fold. I believe that's what I've seen on the focaccia recipe that I use. I'm going to try that with this dough and see, just based off of the pictures, it looks very similar to that first bread we made. Um, It says like the same thing, take a large parchment sheet of paper, use the dough, flip it. Like just similarly to the first thing, this one has a 2 hour rest also, the same way the dough that I made yesterday, which technically today, because it's sitting right there waiting to rise. So we are going to do that 2 hour rest also. But prior to letting it rest for 2 hours, I am going to do two fold intervals, 15 minutes apart. Um, One, because I only have one Dutch pot, but also two, because I just want to try a different technique and we'll see how they vary, if there's a rise or if there's not a rise. So we'll see at the end of that. All right. Let me just wet my hands and I'll do that four corner fold that I was telling you about. Now, obviously, I'm not a professional baker, so this might not be the correct term, but you basically just take and you fold it over. You take it and you stretch it as far as it'll go. Wow, it's really wet. I mean, really. And you fold it over. And so it starts creating some tension. We want that tension to create that gluten. Oh, so I'm just going to I'm going to do it. Ooh. And already it's more tough. It's got more tension than when I started. So I'm just going to do two more folds. This is one and two, and I'm just going to let it rest. And it looks less like, I mean, if when I'm dropping it down like that, it still looks like pancake batter, but it looks less like a pancake batter and more like bread dough. I don't know. I like doing that pull, so I'm going to do it one more time. I don't know. I just really like doing this fold. So we're just gonna see if it helps a little bit. Wow, I didn't do a good job at chopping this. I wish I had a camera from up above so you guys could see what I'm talking about. I'm just gonna cover it and let it sit for 15 seconds, 15 minutes. Okay, I'll wash my hands. Okay, so I changed the camera position just to show you guys what I mean. So you see how it's like, I mean, it has still some of its shape. I'm not going to shape it now, but I do have the rosemary bread that I made in the previous video still sitting uncooked because I didn't realize when I started the recipe that it was going to take 24 hours. So I still have that sitting uncooked, so I'm just going to give you a side-by-side comparison. So this one is the rosemary and lemon bread. And this one is the rosemary bread. Now you see how they're essentially the same recipe with the exception of the rosemary and the lemon zest that were added to this one. And this one has rosemary and garlic. So they're essentially the same thing in terms of 3 cups of flour and the yeast and the salt, and so they should be the same consistency. But while I did the four corner fold on this one, I haven't done it on this one, and you see how this one looks a little more soupy, like I was saying, a little more pancake battery. And I know that it's inside of one of these skillets. It doesn't mean that it's going to make it look more like a pancake. It's not that. It's definitely because of that four corner fold. So we'll see once they're both made if there's going to be a difference in between them. Okay, so this is the dough after 15 minutes. Um, Let me just wet my hands so that I can go ahead and do that fold again. So I'm just going to go in with wet hands and I'm going to pick up and fold over. 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 All right. I like doing it, so I'm going to do it one more time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, now it's a little more taut, you see. Um, so I'm just gonna cover it back up, let it sit for another 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna transfer it to the Dutch oven. And we are back. All right, I'm not gonna show you guys the fold because you've already seen it. I'm not gonna repeat it. I already did the second one, what I'm going to do, it says I need parchment paper and the Dutch oven. I'm a little confused, so I'm going to have it sit on the counter with the parchment paper, waiting for the oven to be ready. It says take a large sheet of flip onto the center, seam down, and then gently shape into a sliding cover. Cover the dough with a kitchen towel and let it rise. Let it rest for 2 hours at a warm place until doubled in size. When 30 minutes are left, place a large pot or a Dutch oven into the oven, set the temperature to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and let it preheat. I mean, if that's what it says to do, that's what we're going to do then, I guess. We already changed up one thing from the recipe. Let's not get crazy, right? So I'm going to cut some parchment paper to about the size of my Dutch oven, which, is smaller than this. Let me just cut it out. So I'm going to have it there waiting for my dough to be ready. And I have my surface already floured. It's been sitting floured for a bit actually. Get this dough out of here. All right. Okay, dump this guy into the sink. And we are going to fold this guy. Until it forms a disc. Okay. All right, let me just wet my hand so that I can hold it because I wet both of them because it is a lot of dough. All right, so I'm just gonna put this upside down. All right. Just gonna throw that on top because it belongs there. I'm just gonna try to make it into a circle. feel like it's going to spread all over the counter by the time 2 hours pass, but we're following the recipe. We have already changed enough. So I'm just cleaning up my work surface here. Honestly, don't even want to put a towel on that because the towel is going to make a mess. But we'll see how this goes. Let me just wash my hands and I'll come back to you guys. I'm not optimistic about this. My God, this recipe book, it's been a constant, like, I'm not optimistic throughout the whole process. But I think because of that fold that we did, it is holding a little bit more of a shape. Between that four corner fold, I think it helped. It is holding a little bit of a shape. You see, it's not oozing out like it did in this one over here, or this guy over here. So we still have an hour on that one. This guy's going to sit for another 2 hours. Um, and while that sits, I'm going to clean around. So I am finishing up my rosemary and lemon bread. Um, okay, so I have it sitting here, waiting for it to grow. I covered it up because I didn't feel comfortable putting it on a towel. So I covered it in a bowl and it did maintain a good shape. It still does kind of look like a pancake. It does kind of still have pancake, that thick pancake consistency, but it does look better than that other dough we were making. So let me just wash my hands really quickly. And so I have the oven set to 450 degrees. I have the Dutch oven in there already as the instruction says. I do think this dough particularly looks too big to fit inside of the Dutch oven the way that it's spread out like this. So I'm going to just kind of shape it. Oh, I should have wet this thing. Let me wet it. I'm going to try to tuck it under. I use my hands. Am I defeating or whatever, making it worse, or am I making it better? I'm not sure, but it still has its rise. I haven't changed it. Oh, you know what? I did yesterday like this. So let me try doing it like this. Kind of putting it in a circle like that instead of pulling it. Okay, so that it yeah, like if I go around the sides like that, I'm definitely making a mess, but I feel like I'm bringing it in a little better and not pulling as much. So I'm not. All right, it looks a lot better. That looks like a good dough. All right, I'm gonna put a Trevis on the counter and get the Dutch oven out. The oven is set to 450 degrees, so it is hot in there. Woo, super hot. Okay. Ooh, it smells like heat. It smells like heat is radiating off of the Dutch oven. All right, so I'm gonna tuck it. Looks a little, looks like fat, like a fat. I don't know how to describe it, but I need to get a knife to cut some lines. And yesterday I used this knife, so let me see if I can cut it. Use this knife again. All right. Ooh, that's hot. Let me not grab it with my hands. All right, and so I'm gonna cut. I'm just gonna make sure to force that line in. Okay, so it looks like about a good line. Maybe you just gotta stab it in there. All right, so I'm gonna top it. I want to make sure to get the paper on the outside. I'm concentrating not to burn myself. All right, and I'm gonna put that guy in to sleep for another 30 minutes. Woo! All right. We'll see. 30 minutes. See if this thing works out. I have had the bread in the oven for 30 minutes and it's time to pull it out. So let's see how this guy looks. Gonna sit it on my trivet. Come here, little trivet. All right. Ooh. The other one. Ooh. Look at it. Look at this. Oh, you can't see it. Look at this bread. Ooh. It's a little stuck to the paper, so I'm gonna let it cool. I let the bread cool, and I thought I'd put it right here next to the one we made earlier. Um, and I just wanted to do a little comparison. So, this one I had an issue with the the strides that I made in it. When I went to cut it, they didn't stay in the loaf for whatever reason. This one I made it a little deeper, but as you can see, it's still not as pronounced. I don't have a dramatic ear. What I'm thinking is maybe because the dough is so wet that even though I made a lot more pronounced cut on this one, it started combining again after I cut it because I remember seeing how pronounced it was. So it could have been that, but like for it to be so slightly um, cut. But anyways, so this one is a lot lighter. I thought it was built up, but it just has flattened up. And like you see, it's kind of wobbly. It looks like a little fat deposit there. This one, not as much. And this one's still a little warm, but I am gonna cut them in half just so that we can see what the insides look like, just to do a side-by-side comparison. But this one looks a lot better. I like the color on it, the little brownness. It's not like evenly baked. I think it gives it a little more of a rustic feel. Um, but let me just cut them. It smells really good. So I thought maybe like there would have been some height, like, and maybe the inside would have just risen, but like the actual bread would have been, um, like maybe there would have been a pocket, but it looks like it's consistently, there's consistent air bubbles throughout the bread. So it looks like a good bread. Now we're going to see this one because this is the one that I'm a lot more concerned about. Let me just cut it straight down the middle. We see that flap? It looks like a pita bread. with a pocket there. Yep, that's what I thought. We got a little pita bread pocket. I mean, I'm sure it will still work good for some sandwiches, but I, I just don't think it's going to. It definitely just doesn't look the same. All right, let me just wrap this video because I have a hungry friend out here hanging out. Um, and I'm really proud of myself because I didn't get absolutely any dough or flour on my sleeves. Woo-hoo.